Today we're going to talk about building a materia medica, or a reference guide to medicinal plants. I'm going to be the first to admit one thing I'm not super passionate about is edibles and medicinals. It's just not something I've ever really just found that much interest in. But I do think it's important because one of my passions is long-term wilderness living. So being able to make medicines to treat yourself in the field is super important. Now there's a ton of good reference manuals out there. The problem that I've always ran into, and I hear students say all the time with reference manuals, is that there's a lot of plants in those manuals many times that aren't in your area, or you don't even know how to identify, and the pictures in the book aren't that good. So you have to sort of sift through that and find exactly what's in your area and how you're going to decipher that at that time, and are you going to carry that book along with you. So building your own reference guide eliminates needing to carry that book around. You can add this reference guide into the Bushcraft Bible, which the link is below, and then you are truly enhancing that Bushcraft Bible and that reference material you have along with you for any situation you run into. So now when we think about building materia medica, what we're thinking about is laying it out in a way that it is truly a reference guide. It's very quick, it's very simple, and it is very personalized to you. You can have anything you want in it, specific to the area that you operate in and what type of trees or plants you personally know. So I think the easiest way that we go about doing this is to just lay out each section. I'll walk you through how mine's laid out, and then it's on you to go back and actually build this thing. And then you can add to it as much as you want or as little as you want, but you're gonna get a good idea of how it's laid out and how simple this can actually be. Now apply the same concept. Have your scratch pad and then have your actual book along with you. Don't write in your book, write in your scratch pad and then transfer it over so you have a good documented journal or reference guide that's not all marked up or missing pages or anything like that. The first thing I like to do is make an actual outline of what each plant or tree is going to be laid out like. This is going to give you a very consistent way to read the information and pick out the exact information that you need. So page 1 is your outline of trees and plants. We list the plant or tree name, and underneath it a description and the parts of the plant or tree that are used. Then we talk about the medical use, the preparation, the dosage, and if there's any dangers related to that plant or tree. Now once that outline page is done, we can move on. But I think it's important that when we build something like this, we lay it out so we always have a good reference. Remember, we're really building a reference guide, so we want it to be as consistent as possible. We just don't want a bunch of chicken scratch that we can't understand or we have to sift through. We want it to be quick, easy, and efficient. Now the next section that I have listed are the medical properties of the plant and trees. So it's more of a definitions type page. You don't need to have this in there, but I do because then I use those terms in that layout that we initially had outlined. So if you want this list, you can go on our website. I'm going to put that in my blog section. You'll find it, you can read through. Now I've seen these lists with these terms a lot shorter and a lot longer. I sort of picked out the ones that I thought were most relevant and list them. So check that out if you want over at our website. The next part now is for you to sit around in a nice quiet area, maybe out in the woods, and think about medical problems that you personally have or things that you've experienced in the past that you want to have treatments for while out in the field. So again, over on my blog I'll leave a list, but I'm going to read off some of them that I have listed down. Normal things that I think most of the time I'm going to deal with while I'm out here. And that includes blisters, burns, congestion / sinus pressure, cuts, diarrhea, headaches, muscle aches, poison ivy / oak and rashes, sore throats, and upset stomachs. Like, they're the normal things. Outside of that, there's not too many medical issues I deal with personally, but that doesn't mean you might not deal with them. So list the things that you deal with that you, I don't want to say all the time have, but commonly maybe experience, and they're where we're going to build the rest of our glossary from. Okay, so now that you have all of those listed, all right, what you're gonna do is you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna have to do some research. You're gonna have to look up medicinal plants for burns, medicinal plants for blisters, and see what comes up, okay? And then cross-reference that into journals you have or books that you have or online from reputable sources, and start to just list those things. So I'll give you a quick example. I have, next to cuts, I have yarrow. okay? I know yarrow's in my area, so from the research I've done, that's something I would list there. So if I have a cut, yarrow can treat it. So what I want to do now is I want to go through and try to find some type of medicinal tree or plant that's going to fix all of those issues that I'm going to have. And I want to get a list. It doesn't have to be super big, okay? For my cuts, it's yarrow, because that's what's in our area, so that's what I have listed. I don't need to list 1,000 things. List 1 or 2 things that are in your area, and try to complete that list. So for every ailment, try to find something that's going to cure it that's in your area. Now, once all that research is done, and that's going to take a little bit of time, you can start to write out those outlines for each and every one of those plants or trees that you identified. So in our example, I would write yarrow at the top, I'd write a description of it, and then I would fill in the rest of that outline that we initially made at the beginning of our journal. What this is going to do over time now is give you, number 1, an index. So if you have a headache, you can open up your journal, you can look up headache, look at the plants next to it, or trees, and then go back in your notes, find what it is that treats a headache. You know what it is, how to prep it, how much to take, if there's any things you need to worry about that, and you're as good as gold. So you have it all down, and it's very specific to your needs. So honestly, by just listing down ailments you can have, ways to fix those ailments with things out here, and then outlining each one of those fixes, it just makes your Bushcraft Bible that much better. And you don't even need to have other things in this notebook. It can be just that. Just leave enough pages that as your education expands around trees and plants, if you find something new in your area that you're like, man, I really like that, you can just add another page in and then go back in your glossary and add that. This has been super helpful for me, especially because I'm just not super into the plants and trees and making medicines and things like that, but I think it's important to know. And again, if we don't use these skills all the time, we start to forget things and we start to not remember how to do things. So by having it written down in this notebook, especially if you don't use it all the time, we can go back, reference it, and very quickly I know, okay, this ailment, this is how I do it, and then this is how I make the medicine. It's all right there, and it's specific to my location. So I hope you give this a try. Let me know what you think about this whole method. It's worked for me, and in my area, I have about 15 to 20 different plants and trees that I can go to all the time. I can identify super quickly, and I'm solid. I can fix myself up if needed. So this was Dan Wallach, Coalcracker Bushcraft. Hope you enjoyed this video. As always, check us out at coalcrackerbushcraft.com. Go get to work and make your materia medica. And until the next video, stay in the woods.